Good evening, class. Today I'll talk to you about why the U.S. should legalize marijuana, cannabis. I'd start you off with this quote. Of course I know how to roll a joint. Martha Stewart. The two countries recently, or not recently, but that have legalized cannabis countrywide. Uruguay and Canada just recently. Uruguay legalized cannabis in 2013, December 2013, on the premise of stopping drug trafficking and criminal activity in their country. Canada just recently legalized weed about a month ago, almost, to help curb the youth in their country. A more reason why the U.S. should legalize weed is medicinal use, recreational use, and revenue. Medical cannabis has been used for almost 3,000 years for treatments like chronic pain in adults, using all forms of cannabis, as an anti-emetic or anti-nausea treatment and chemotherapy, for improving patient-reported multiple sclerosis, spasticity symptoms, and indica strains are believed to be physically sedating, perfect for relaxing with a movie or as a nightcap for bed. Sativas tend to provide more invigorating, uplifting cerebral effects that parallel with physical activity, social gatherings, and creative projects. There's been many studies done, but there needs to be a more extensive research done for medical usage. But overall, there has been seen improvements, especially with veterans with PTSD and several pains from the military service. I know this personally from people that I've spoke with that have gotten out of the service and have used cannabis in order to help them with their day-to-day lives. We're going to go to recreational use because that's other reasons why other people use marijuana. The number of those charged with marijuana law violations who are arrested for possession only is 5,992, give or take a few, about 90% of arrests. The member states that have approved legally taxing and regulating marijuana is Alaska, California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington. And now Michigan, as of recently. People who have never tried the drug are mainly the ones who are opposed of it. And those people tend to change their mind when they finally retire from government service. An example would be Senator Chuck Schumer introducing a bill to decriminalize the drug. Most people that have tried or used marijuana was primarily for recreational use, such as vaporization. It's kind of like an e-cigarette. A vaporizer heats dried marijuana and releases the vapor. This vapor contains THC and other cannabinoids, but without toxic smoke. It is unknown if this method is less harmful to the lungs than smoking marijuana. Dabbing is another one. In this newer delivery method, you heat and breathe in concentrated cannabis oil that contains up to 80% THC. Dabbing produces a strong high and its safety is still unknown. Edibles. Everybody almost always knows about edibles. Marijuana can be baked into foods like cookies or brownies. You can also take it by mouth in an oil capsule or tincture. Recreational use is widely used. Like I said before, a lot of the people that have been arrested for marijuana usage were only recreational users and were not causing harm to other individuals. This leads us to tax revenue and the increase of people utilizing recreational marijuana. Tax revenue or revenue in general, can increase jobs. You legalize marijuana and a lot of jobs can be created with new shops popping up, people actually growing the cannabis and selling it for profit. Look at Colorado, who has had a major increase in tax revenue, and they're almost at the point to where they can give money back to their people who live in their state because they're generating so much revenue from marijuana. Tax revenue in the drug legalization would yield annually. If currently illegal drugs were taxed at rates comparable to those on alcohol and tobacco, it would generate about $47 billion. Canada has also seen its benefits. In 2016-2017 fiscal year, Colorado took in $105 million in tax revenue from marijuana sales. The money is being used to create housing programs, aid mental health programs in jails, and contribute to health programs at local middle schools. Also, like I said, employment increases. They're projected to create more jobs in manufacturing. It could create 1.1 million jobs in the U.S. by 2025 if it is legalized in the country. That's almost $52 billion in tax revenue that can be created if it's taxed at 15%. In closing, when I was a kid, I didn't help frequently, and that was a point, Barack Obama. There are major ups to legalizing weed and cannabis in the United States. And I think the use of medical and recreational will greatly increase the profits. And people living in the U.S., there'll be somewhat less crime. Supply and demand will be increased. And the U.S. can greatly profit to better build infrastructure and for the next generation of youth that are coming up. Any questions?